streamlined data flow. And streamlined data flow is a fulcrum capability, foundational and critical to the overall execution of a customer interaction. It bridges all of these components together. And while it's part of the event driven architecture, it is a conduit that brings information to all of these components and from all of these components. So it's like a two-way pipe. It brings information into the workflows and processes so that it can be transformed and used. It brings them into the application where agents can access and update that information. And then, of course, it is part of the data management capabilities, and it returns and retrieves information from the data management services. So from a deployment perspective, this is a typical simple DaVinci deployment. As you may be aware, DaVinci is a web application that is deployed from the cloud. First off, as a web application, it runs exclusively on the agent desktop as part of the browser session so that all information stays within the DaVinci session and all the connections are maintained from the DaVinci session. And in terms of being deployed from the cloud, that's because it is configured in Creator Studio, which is a web application, your profile and all the configuration settings and agent settings. And the apps themselves are deployed or downloaded from Azure. So when a user logs in, they connect with Azure. Azure identifies the profile solution and downloads the configuration and apps into their browser session. And after that, there's no data fed back to the cloud, and there are no processes that are run from the cloud. All the processes run here on the desktop. Let's go look at a solution deployed just for the streamlined data flow. And it's this one. And again, we have our CRM app, that's Dynamics. We have information coming into and going out from both of these apps, the channel app as well. In this case, the channel app will be a simulator. But the scenario here is that when the user gets a call from a customer, the customer will either authenticate in the IVR by entering a PIN, or if they haven't authenticated, the agent can authenticate them by validating using a verification app as part of DaVinci. Um, there is a data transformation app that can change information as it comes into the system. And this is a useful tool for updating and transforming information, translating it for presentation so that it can be consumed by the different apps that may require information in different formats. And finally, there is a Power Automate app, which is going to be using that information that's been transformed and validated and retrieved and pushing that out into a Power Automate solution, which can send notifications, execute workflows in that way, and also bring information from third-party information sources. In our example, the notification service that will be fed is a Teams application, which will raise a Teams notification. The information source is just a feature that would be a future capability. Now, just so you understand how this data flow works, information comes from the channel, goes to the transformation app to be transformed, and then is fed through these apps. So on the CRM side, it consumes the information, executes a screen pop, updates that with the caller information from the CRM Dynamics application. The validation app receives the user authentication information and the agent queries and validates that. So the data could be updated. And then the data is then that customer call and transformed validation information is consumed by the Power app to set Power Automate Flow app that sends out the notification. So you can see that this is not a linear data flow. It is a multi-directional data flow, and it is constantly interacting with the DaVinci framework components, which include the unified data access and interaction data. So it is a multi-directional data flow. So here's our Creator Studio profile that includes the data transformation app, the validation app, the verification app, and let's just go see how those two themselves are configured in consuming this data. So the data transformation app, basically you configure it by having a incoming CAD element, the customer validated field CAD, and then creating a confirmed CAD element based on this condition. So if customer validated is false, then it will be transformed into true and saved and confirmed. If it's true, confirmed won't be created because the transformation doesn't take place. And this is very sophisticated. It can take wildcards, it can take different kinds of information, but the core capability is taking that information and transforming it and putting it back into the data flow. On the verification side, we're doing something very similar, only it's the user who's doing that. So we have a button group where we display buttons that will be used for validation. We have two: the button validated, which will set confirmed to true, and the button not validated, customer wasn't validated, which will be false. And all of that leverages the confirmed CAD field, which is part of that coming out of that data transformation. So what we see here is the consumption and updating of information and feeding it back, taking it from the data flow and returning it to the flow. And before we just do the demonstration, I just wanted to highlight that data transformation and the verification app are not the only things that are capable of transforming data. We actually have innate transformation of information within the Microsoft Dynamics app. So we have the ability to transform the incoming call information so that it is formatted for a screen pop. And then we also have the click to dial phone formatting, which takes the click to dial number format coming out of Dynamics and makes it a dialable string on the phone system. And we also have the ability to display that information within the application component of DaVinci. So with that background, let's go take a look at the actual execution of this process within Dynamics. So I'll just log into Dynamics. So now all of the components are downloaded and available in my desktop, and I'll just click myself ready and receive an inbound call. There we go. So here's our inbound simulated phone call. I'll answer it. And as you can see, call information, the customer validated field is false. And that is being fed through the data flow, through the data transformation tool. And now in the application area, which this is the interface between Dynamics and DaVinci, you can see that the interaction data, the CAD display, is confirmed true. We have the caller information that came out of Dynamics, and we have the call activity, which is going to be created here in the UI and fed back into Dynamics as an update. The user validates the customer. That's going to reset the value of the validation, and that will persist throughout the customer's life. So if I were to transfer this, it would go to another user validated, and they would not have to revalidate. I'll end the call, and that will send off my message. Data flow has pushed that information into the Power Automate flow where it has been consumed and put into this data packet.